Hello, welcome everybody. I'm Devin Jones, and going to be going through threat awareness and classifications with you. It's really a critical part of the cyber world when we talk about threat awareness and classification, because how do we defend ourselves if we don't know what we're being threatened by, right? So that's kind of what we're going to look at, gain some insight in that today. Um, as we get into it here, we're going to look at the common cyber threats, categorize those threats, look at some of the vulnerabilities that can be exploited, the common ones, and lastly, we'll and on evolving nature of cyber threats. After this presentation, you'll have a comprehensive understanding of the threat landscape and the importance of threat awareness and classification and maintaining a secure digital environment. First, we're going to talk about the CIA triad. And as we think about it today, think about this when you're thinking about these threats. Are they attacking confidentiality? Somebody trying to get information they're not supposed to? Are they attacking integrity? Somebody changing the information that they're not supposed to? Or are they talking about availability? Somebody attacking it, shutting down a system so the people that need to have access to that system or services can't. So as we go through, so we look at the different malware types, think about this in your back of your mind. Which one of the CIA triad is this malware attacking? Some of the common cyber threats. Phishing. We're going to talk about a little bit more in depth later, but phishing are deceptive emails that are typical, or smishing can be text messages that are trying to trick us into revealing information or downloading malware. So commonly, they try to steal our credentials, financial data, or personal information. Malware is a type of software that's used to harm us, harm our system, or gain unauthorized access to our system. In the next slide, we'll look at what they include, like viruses, worms, ransomware, and spyware. They can be used to have data breaches, crash our systems, and financial losses. Ransomware, it's a specific type of malware that encrypts our data and locks it up. And then they want us to pay them for us to then release our data back to us. So ransomware, thinking back to that CIA triad, really is attacking the availability side. Last, the denial of service attack. This is where they're trying to overwhelm a system or network to shut it down, right? Causes downtime, impacts our user experiences. This is also an availability attack. Some of the common types of malware. The first one we're going to look at is a virus. You can kind of think of it like a flu for the computer. It attaches to it, spreads uncontrollably. It corrupts the data, hinders our system performance. Lots of times you might see these as download attachments that people might click on and get it. Worms is the next one we're going to look at. Worms is a virus that doesn't need a host to spread. They crawl through the network, exploiting vulnerabilities and causing massive outages. So you keep your systems updated to try to prevent these. Next one's Trojan horse. Much like the Trojan horse in mythology, they put themselves inside the horse, got taken into the gates, and later they came out to attack. Same idea. It's disguised as harmless software when you install it. Then once it's on your computer, it opens the door to maybe other malware to disrupt your system or steal information. You need to make sure that you're downloading your software from a secure location, a trusted location. Otherwise, Trojan horses could be something that happens to you. Spyware, well, just like it sounds. It's the ultimate eavesdropper, right? It hides on your device, then it monitors your activity, stealing your sensitive information. There are a lot of reputable anti-spyware software out there that can help detect these things and protect yourself and your privacy. Ransomware, we talked about it already, right? Takes your data, encrypts it, says you pay us or we're not giving you your data back to you. Thing to think about with the ransomware is it can attack anywhere, right? It attacks small businesses, large organizations. It attacks, even cities have been hit by ransomware attacks. And if they don't pay, then lots of times they don't unencrypt or decrypt that data for them. Adware, although it might seem harmless, just a few pop-ups here and there, it really is more than that, right? Because it can really degrade our system, slow us down, and really stop our system from functioning at its full performance. Cryptojackers, these are where they put this malware on a computer to do crypto mining on your computer. It's expensive to do crypto mining, so they're taking this type of malware, putting it on your computer. That way that you're taking the risk. You're doing you're using your money to do the crypto mining for them, then they get paid off of it. Next, fileless malware. Unlike traditional malware that stays on the hard drive, fileless lives in the memory part of it, and it exploits legitimate tools. They can often be hard to detect because they're stealthy or they're not sitting on that hard drive to be detected. It's sitting in the memory. So lots of times we're going to use some behavior analytics to try to catch these elusive threats. Next, the botnets malware. Botnets can infect networks or part of the network, systems on the network, and they're used to launch massive attacks that we call a DDoS attack. So back to that denial of service, we put the other D in front of for a distributed denial of service, meaning that we're using a lot of computers to do this denial of service attack, right? Little things like making sure we change default passwords when we get a new piece of equipment, things like that can really help protect us from botnets. But also, we just need to be mindful. We're going to have to make sure that our data isn't using memory that it shouldn't have to. Our system's not using memory that it shouldn't be using. Like when you look, like, why is my computer running at 100%? Oh, maybe there's something wrong in that case. And lastly, we'll look at rootkits. They've really buried themselves deep inside the computer, like at the root of the computer, at that kernel level. So they're really hard to get out. Lots of times they take special tools to detect and then special tools to try to get it out. Really, sometimes rootkits are even hard to impossible to actually get completely off a computer. So it's a very strong piece of malware that we have to be very mindful of. Now that we've looked at some of the common types of malware, we're going to look at some of the other weaknesses like social engineering. Social engineering is really preying on the weakest part of any system, which is humans, right? We make mistakes. People can manipulate our psychology, and we end up divulging sensitive information that maybe we didn't mean to, or we didn't think that we would, right? Some of the ways we do this by pretexting, somebody acting like somebody they're not. They're acting like a customer service representative, but really they're not, right? They're just somebody trying to get our social security number, trying to get our credit card number so that they can use that fraudulently. Or maybe baiting, luring individuals, putting stuff out there so that they'll click on it, like, $100 gift card if you click on this link. So they click on it, there's no $100 gift card, but now they're getting into your system, they're getting that sensitive information that you divulge. And last one would be more of an in-person one, tailgating. Tailgating's where somebody comes in after somebody else. They walk through the door, somebody credentials, somebody follows them in, right? Or it could even be somebody using a fake ID to pose as a colleague possibly, but they're really not working there, right? Especially you work in a big office, you might not know every person. So when you see somebody comes through with their hands full, like, oh, can you hold the door for me? You hold it for them out of courtesy, right? Like that's the socially acceptable thing to do, but really that's kind of hurting us because it's putting some of our security at risk by letting possibly unauthorized people in. Insider threats. This is a real big one. We were meeting with the CISO of a major financial tech company in the United States about a year ago, and they said that they focus most of their time on insider threats because insider threat is somebody that already has access. They already have privileges within the system to get to sensitive information. There's common types of insider threats. Somebody that just wants to steal money, a thief. Somebody that's committing fraudulent activities like bribery, using their position of trust to embezzle money potentially. So you have fraud as a reason. And lots of just sabotage, intentionally damaging things and destroying company property and systems because they're upset about something, or maybe they just think it's fun. There's a lot of reasons people might sabotage something, even if it doesn't seem normal to us or obviously it's not ethical how somebody else would do it. And, consequences to an organization are data breaches, leading to reputational damages and legal consequences. We think about the Target threat or Target attack from 2018, 2019, something in that time frame. It's very difficult. That was from a third party that came in. Really, it was an insider threat, but a third party. It wasn't outside people coming in. It was people that got access from inside. Next is the advanced persistent threats. These are not one attack that happens. This is a sophisticated attack that from skilled adversaries with normally well-funded organizations, right? So these people that have a lot of money that are really doing that persistent threat. We help mitigate these three ways through threat intelligence. So knowing their techniques, techniques, and procedures, TTPs. Um, so we know what tools they typically use to carry out and try to mitigate against them. Threat hunting, that's the proactive side of trying to mitigate it by identifying them, using some advanced analytics, some machine learning algorithms to really see the patterns in the network system that might indicate an attack even if we don't notice it. And behavioral analysis, just identifying that something seems unusual. There's suspicious behavior that looks like this may be an attack, even though I'm not sure why. Really, advanced persistent threats can sit in systems for a long time without ever being detected, which really is the scary part. They could be in our system and we don't even know it yet. A couple categories for threats. Phishing attacks, I put one as an example here at the bottom. Like it says it's from the Postal Service. So if we're thinking about phishing attacks, they normally use urgency, plausibility, familiarity, or confidentiality as ways to do it. So urgency, like, oh, you missed your package today. You need to get back to us within 2 days, or we won't be able to deliver that package. Plausibility, well, I get stuff from the Postal Service. That's plausible. That matters to me. Familiarity, I'm familiar with the Postal Service, and it's to me, it's confidential to me. It's my package. It's not my neighbor's package. It's mine. So those are kind of ways for phishing attacks. Lots of times if we take a deep breath and just take a step back and don't click on something too quick and just take that step back, lots of times we can see them, especially with proper training. Malware attacks, like somebody clicking on malware, clicking on an attachment and it gets malware onto our computer and starts to spread through our network. Those are type of attacks that really disrupt our normal functioning. Now, some of the vulnerabilities we see in our system, things like weak passwords, people not using proper password protocol, not, like maybe they make it the season and the year, so spring 2024 exclamation mark. Well, that's pretty common. It's actually sad how common that is. Maybe it's password 1 exclamation point, right? So like weak passwords allow people to get in. If we have software that they have patches for and that we haven't updated it, that can be an issue. We've already talked about phishing attacks, unsecured networks. Maybe we don't have a password to get onto our Wi-Fi. Lack of employee awareness, so we haven't trained our employees, so they're more likely to click on those phishing attacks. Inadequate access controls. Maybe we haven't segmented our network, so somebody in accounting to get to every file that you can get to. Well, we don't want that. We want you to have least privilege, like enough information to do your job, but no more. We've talked about malware infections. They can be used to steal data. And then lastly, the insider threats. We've talked about that. That's a common vulnerability that we have. Lastly, as we look at this evolving nature of threats, one thing to think about is it's ever changing. As soon as we find a way to mitigate a threat, they're coming up with a new threat and a way to get around that mitigation. They're sophisticated. Like a lot of hackers are sophisticated. They might be able to write their own malware, might write their own ransomware. They might even sell it to other people, right? Like what we call malware as a service. Like that's actually out there, as scary as that is. So like those are things that it's ever changing. No 2 days are the same. What is today's reality is not tomorrow's reality. So it's not like I put these access controls in place and I know I'm good. It's never that easy, right? It's always changing. It's a great challenge to our defense because sometimes it feels like we're one step behind. We figure out how to mitigate, and now there's this other attack coming, so we're trying to mitigate it. It's like we're always trying to be proactive with our threat hunting, but we're also trying to stop whatever that newest attack is. Even though we're trying to think about it ahead of time, educate ourselves, and do all those things to make sure it doesn't happen, it is still hard. And traditional security isn't always sufficient against advanced attacks. That's why we're always finding new ways. We have AI that's starting to help us more and more, but it's also helping the attackers develop more sophisticated attacks too. So hopefully, looking at these common types of malware, looking at common threats, looking at common vulnerabilities, and the ever-changing nature of cyber threats, you really start to gain an understanding through this lesson and education about how we can protect ourselves in this digital landscape. Thank you. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you.